Hey everyone, welcome back to She Burbs Podcast. I am your host, Brooke Wright.
Hey everyone, welcome back to She Burbs Podcast. Today's guest is Skip. Hi, Skip.
Hi, Brooke.
Thank you so much for coming on my podcast today.
I am so delighted to be with you.
So, Skip is a seasoned physician, a 26-year-old Army vet, a national vet wrestling champion, an author, and a speaker. That's pretty cool. So, can you tell our listeners what inspired you to write Wrestling Depression is Not for Wimps?
Oh, I love talking about that. Thank you so much, Brooke. Well, the title, Wrestling Depression is Not for Wimps, was taken from the fact that I've been involved with the sport of wrestling for over 50 years. See, I was the smallest kid typically in my class, bullied, and it was horrible at any sport I tried. I failed. I didn't know how to kick a ball, catch a ball, throw a ball. I didn't know how to run or jump. I failed tetherball.
Wow.
And I discovered wrestling in 8th grade. It was the first time I ever heard the sense. I think I can be good at this. I think I can be really good at this.
Mhm.
I finally was on a level playing field. I didn't have to compete with boys that were a lot bigger than I was.
Wow.
And it was the first time I ever had this sense of, that I could do this. Albeit it took me 2 years to win my first match. But when I did, my career took off, and I was a two-time district champion in high school, state runner-up, but won multiple state freestyle championships, placed in 2 national freestyle championships in high school, finished my high school career as an honorable mention All-American. Then I got the bug again at age 56, asked my 18-year-old son to train with me. He became my training partner, my trainer, my manager. We went out to Tucson, Arizona, and we won a
Oh,
national. I always have to
nice.
fidget with the camera here because on StreamYard it's a little bit different. We won our national wrestling championship.
Wow.
The next year I was a national runner-up. So I've been involved with wrestling, whether as a competitor, a coach, a fan, a father, brother of wrestlers. Wrestling's in my blood. Hence the title. Wrestling Depression is Not for Wimps. I suffered major depression my last year in the Army. And as I was recovering from depression, I felt a calling. I felt a calling from God to help other men struggling with depression. So as I received that calling, I knew that I was going to have to tell my story.
Mhm.
So I began to jot notes down, what I had learned, what I was learning, with the intention of sharing it. And the first time I had the opportunity to share was with the medical staff, well, the staff at large at Eisenhower Army Medical Center where I was stationed.
Mhm.
Pardon me. And I talked about my story, sinking into depression, what led to it, and the lessons I was learning along the way, and encouraged others not to pull a skip, not to end up where I ended up, curled up in a fetal position under the desk in my office, where
Wow.
that was finally where I ended up before I could understand, oh, I'm depressed. Go
Mhm.
get help.
Yeah.
That's how bad it got for me. And so I
Mhm.
encourage others, don't end up there. Do
Yeah.
some preventive maintenance. I have a chapter in my book I talk about prevention always trumps rehab.
Mhm.
And so being able to monitor where you're at
Mhm.
spiritually, emotionally, socially, physically, mentally, and
Yeah.
keeping tabs on those reserves in yourself, those energy reserves. And if they ebb, being able to build them back up.
Mhm.
With that being said, I got that calling. I began to note that. I shared the first time. And then I looked for other opportunities to share after we retired from the Army later that year. The
Mhm.
following year, in the late winter, early spring, I came across this course through a lady by the name of Christine Closer with a K. And
Mhm.
Christine has a transformational books was the name of it at that time. Now, since the publishing company has been changed to Caputia Publishing, and she had a week-long course that was called Transformational Author Experience. Well, I took that. It was free, and it was amazing. At the end, she talked about this contest, and the contest basically was for individuals to talk about their transformational author experience, that what that transformational experience was. What was your transformational experience? How did it transform you? How would it transform others? How would it transform the world? How would it transform readers? And how would it transform a business? And so I thought, I'm going to enter this contest. And so I took a lot of time because you only had a very constrained amount, word usage you could for each question. So I entered it and I won. And with it came a publishing deal. And so that's what led to Wrestling Depression Is Not for Wimps.
Wow, that's amazing. So what did you learn from writing that book?
Wow. What did I learn? Well, yeah, there's some interesting things that I learned as I went along. There were times when I literally was weeping as I wrote this book. And so I found that there were times, certain things that I realized about myself and my past and how deeply certain things cut and wounded me. And I didn't understand how deeply they hurt. I knew they had hurt, but I didn't understand how deeply they hurt and how long that had impacted me for. And it's like dropping a pebble, if you will, in the water, and how those ripples go out and out and out and out and out and out, and how some of those events affected me. And in writing the book, as I'm talking about different instances, it's like light bulbs went on. And I'm seeing things in a new light with that and understanding, oh my goodness, no wonder that impacted me. And then for a period of years, sometimes many, many years, I was struggling with something. That was where the genesis of that was. And I just would weep. Other times just reliving that depression and being at the lowest point in my life where I'm crawling under that desk and curling up in a fetal position again, reliving that and everything that led to that darkest time of my life just put me in tears and made me look at, okay, how can I use this to help other men who are struggling? Why am I telling this story? And saying, I'm going to be as raw, I'm going to be as vulnerable, I'm going to just lay it out there and try not to hold back. I want people to see the good, the bad, and the ugly so they know here's a colonel, there's a physician, here's a man that's been in combat zones, a national wrestling champion, a guy that, has a lot of awards, a lot of academic achievements and other achievements, but still struggle. In other words, I'm a tough guy.
Yeah.
But
I love that you tell your story, because a lot of men, they don't share their emotions. They don't, because they're supposed to be, the man. So that's the way women look at them, is like, they don't cry, they don't share emotions, they don't have depression, they don't have anxiety, they don't have suicidal thoughts. Yeah, and I'm just like, men do have these emotions, and when women say, oh, well, that's a weak man. No, that's not. Like, I love it that you share your story. Like, I love it that you speak with other men. So I love what you're doing.
Thank you. In fact, it's interesting you say that, because one of the things that I came across, I'm preparing to give a TEDx talk next month in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And in doing the research for this, I came across a clinical psychologist by the name of Dr. Ronald Avant, and he was former president of the American Psychological Association, and he coined a term called normative male alexithymia. Normative male alexithymia. And what this term means is feelings without words. Men have feelings, but we don't have words to express them. We're so divorced from our feelings because of the way we've been raised. Don't be a crybaby. Don't be a sissy. Be a man. Real
Yeah.
men don't cry. And so we grow up hearing those words. I grew up hearing those, and we
Mhm.
just push our feelings down, push them down to where we're divorced from our feelings. And
Mhm.
so we don't know what we're feeling. We can express joy, we can express love to a limited extent, we can
Mhm.
express anger,
Mhm.
but there's not much else. We don't know how to express sorrow. We don't know how to express grief. We don't know how to
Mhm.
express disappointment. We don't know how to express I'm feeling rejected.
Mhm.
I'm feeling disappointed. Uh,
Mhm.
I'm feeling I'm feeling that like just like I don't know what's going on.
Mhm.
This whole gamut of emotions that might be going on. I'm feeling confused.
Mhm.
Um, I'm feeling fear.
Mhm.
Any of those that most men that I know haven't learned how to identify, much less express. So when
Mhm.
these so-called negative emotions occur, how does
Mhm.
it get expressed? Anger,
Yeah.
because that's where we've learned it's socially acceptable, at least among men, to
Mhm.
express it, because you don't want to be seen as a wimp.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true. Because
But
my mom always told me, like, I I listen to her, but I don't, take it into, like, I'm just like, okay, whatever, mom. But my mom is always like, yeah, you don't want to date a weak man, and I'm like, mom, what is a weak man? Like, and she says exactly that, and I'm like, that doesn't make them weak, like that makes them human, just like females have emotions and cry. Why can't men do it? Why can't
amen.
they still be men and cry? I
Yes,
just don't understand.
absolutely. You're
Yeah.
you're you're right on in regards to that. And here's an interesting statistic for you that
Hmm.
men die by suicide
Hmm.
3.5 times as often as women.
Yep.
And
That's.
that sobering statistic should be telling you
Hmm.
what's wrong. Why is that?
Hmm.
And I think, and as others, a large part of that is because we haven't learned to identify our emotions,
Hmm.
express them, and reach out for help. We
Hmm.
struggle in silence. We
Hmm.
struggle in silence. We struggle in silence to the point where it just that suffering becomes so intolerable that finally men just say, I can't deal with the suffering because survivors of suicide, when they
Hmm.
get interviewed, you ask them, did you really want to die?
Hmm.
Overwhelmingly, they say, no, I didn't want to die. I just wanted the suffering to
Hmm.
end.
Yep.
I'm glad I didn't die. I didn't want to die.
Hmm.
It's the suffering that they want to stop.
Right.
And so, if I may, getting back to what you were talking about, I talk about the duality of masculinity. You've got
Hmm.
that tough, decisive,
Hmm.
provider, protector, if you will, part of a man. Yes,
Hmm.
that's part of masculinity. Absolutely. And we need that. We need men that can stand up to what's wrong. We need men that can be a protector. We need men that can be a provider, that can be decisive, ready to go in a crisis, this type of thing. But then we need that other side that's equally as important, that
Hmm.
gentle, kind,
Right.
tender, the man that can shed tears openly, the
Hmm.
man that can say, I'm sad,
Right.
I'm
Right.
confused, I'm fearful. You
Hmm.
know, that hurt me. I wish you
Hmm.
hadn't said that to me.
Right. Right.
The man that can express that whole gamut of emotions and not feel less than a man, to feel
Right.
secure, to say, I'm no less than a man.
Hmm.
And that's really what I feel is a true masculine man who
Hmm.
can express the duality of that maleness, if you will. It's not just that one aspect. Oh, I'm tough. I'm rugged. I never cry. Because that gets us in trouble. That
Right.
gets us in trouble.
I agree. I agree. I feel like men have way too much on their shoulders. Like they have to do too much, in my opinion. Like they have to be the provider. They have to do this, and I feel like it overwhelms them sometimes. And I feel like they need like shared responsibilities. I don't know. I don't know. Like, am I making sense?
I love what you're saying, Brooke, in terms of that. In a marriage, this shared, that you're partners together, that
Yeah.
it's this duality, that you bring that together, that you bring those strengths and you complement one another with that you help one another, that you help shoulder the burdens. I look at it as a Christian man saying, yes, we share that, but
Mhm.
if push comes to shove, the final responsibility, if you will, falls to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
In terms of that, but in terms of sharing the responsibility and working together
Mhm.
and so forth, yes, we do that together. My sweetheart of 40 years and we do that. But at the end of the day,
Mhm.
I'm the one that has to stand before God
Yeah.
and give account for my family more so,
Mhm.
because I've been entrusted with that, albeit we have been entrusted with that together.
Yeah.
And
I love
that's the philosophy that I live by.
it. I love that. I love that though. I want to thank you so much, Skip, for coming on my podcast today and chat with
Oh,
me.
thank you, Brooke. This has been delightful. I love your energy. I love listening to your different podcasts and the guests you have on. You keep it up, girl. You keep bringing it.
Thank you. You have a great day.
Thank you. God bless. Bye-bye.
Hey everyone, I want to thank you so much for listening to my interview with Skip, chat about his book. If you would like to purchase his book, I've linked the link within my website. It's linked to this episode. So if you would like to purchase his book or to have a chat with him or to see what he's speaking about or anything, any questions you have, being a male and wanting to express your feelings, I feel like males definitely should. I want to thank you all so much for listening to my podcast. I want to thank you all so much for supporting my podcast. And I hope you all have a great day and make great choices. Bye.